Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with Speak Easy HR. It is episode 6. Welcome in. It's September 9th. I can't believe it's September. I have Cathleen Snyder with Clark Schaefer Strategic HR. Welcome, Kathleen. How are you?
I'm great, David. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's exciting to actually have you on now. We've talked a few times
We
and
have.
we've tried to figure out like what you're going to come on and talk about. And when I said, hey, what's a topic that's really passionate to you in your world right now? And you've been in HR for a few years like me. So it's like, what is it? And so you had a really fascinating topic that really hits a lot of people, primarily that are in managerial roles, but also non-managerial roles
Mhm.
too. So I am the host, producer, editor of the podcast. We are presented by payroll partners. So if you have not evaluated your payroll system lately, definitely check us out. We can help small businesses, mid-sized businesses. There's a QR code on the screen. Visit payrollpartners.net for more information. And I have 2 questions for you, Kathleen.
Yes, sir.
Let me pull this up. And this will make a whole lot more sense if this will pop up here. Here we go. Do you have a porky payroll process? Is your current payroll provider hogging your time or money? It is time to check out Payroll Partners. You can learn more at payrollpartners.net. These are our newest fun animals. They are now pigs this year. Last year we had the move over to Payroll Partners, and now we have the pigs. So
So
these were
somebody is strongly committed to farm animals.
we're going to go through the whole farm. And these were a hot item last week at Kentucky SHRM conference. So if you are watching and you haven't gotten one of these, they will be at Ohio SHRMs, just so everyone knows.
I was going to say, can I get one at Ohio SHRM? I'm headed up there.
There will be some pigs up there at our booth. So
You can have
SHRM,
a contest of what's the farm animal next year.
we've got a few in mind. And I don't know if this one really lives on a farm, but maybe. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Anyways, so Kathleen, we've talked about some of the topics, and before we get into it, you've been in HR for a while, so I want to just give you a little bit of time to kind of introduce yourself to people that are watching. This is live, YouTube and LinkedIn. So if you are watching live, the chat is open. So if you want to comment where you're watching, any questions that you have, please put them in the comment section and we can try to get to them during the show. So this is a little bit different than a lot of podcasts that are just on demand. So you have the chance to ask Kathleen, the professional and in the employee engagement category of HR, any questions that you have. So this is a great opportunity for people to ask questions. So
And I absolutely encourage it. I love engagement when we're doing something like this or when I'm doing a training program or something of that nature. So yeah, bring it on.
yeah. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, and you've been in HR for a while. So let's hear
A
about it.
while, yeah. I'm Cathleen Snyder. I am Director of Training and Development with Clark Schaefer Strategic HR, based in Cincinnati. But we do work nationally, even globally, actually. But I've been in HR for, 25-ish years. And so, yeah, a little while there. But one of the things that I keep over my years of HR, and I mean, I'm in a generalist type role is what I've been a lot. Here more in recent years, I've kind of veered more towards the training development side of things, but I still do function as a generalist. I think, for our team, we feel like that's what makes us stronger trainers is the topics and stuff that we're training on. We're living and breathing this every day. We all have clients and things that we're working with. So, but engagement is something that I am just passionate about. I do a lot of work with working with organizations and things of just creating a good, positive work environment. A lot of times I'll start that conversation with, I don't know about any of you. I have not won the, what's it up to this week? $500 million lottery. I have to work for a living. So, yeah, I got to work. I have a mortgage. I have a car payment. I have a life I like to lead. I have to work. And so, why would I not want to work someplace where I can have a little bit of fun and enjoy what I'm doing and feel like I'm valued and feel like I'm contributing, all of those things. And you know what, folks, it's not rocket science. But a lot of times, as you and I were kind of talking through things, David, it comes back to the basics that so often we forget. Or I have, as I'm working with managers, they tell me, I don't have time for that. Yeah, all this stuff is great, but I don't have time for that. I'm too busy. But you know what? You can't afford not to. I mean, it really does boil back down to those basics.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because you look at technology coming out and you look at all the different stuff that is taking over and AI and technology. And yes, there is great technology out there.
Absolutely.
We live it. We breathe it every day in HR and payroll technology. So we want to leverage the technology for companies to still thrive and have that employee experience on the technology platform. But the engagement side, you still have to implement it. You still have to, execute the programs. So having engagement doesn't just come with a flip of the switch, right?
Absolutely. We're still humans.
Yes.
And we have to treat each other like humans, which again, back to basics.
Yeah.
And, I mean, sometimes it can be just have an actual conversation with people, whether it's get up and leave your office, cubicle, workspace, whatever, go out on the production floor, go out and just have conversations with people. Yes, a lot of people are working virtually. So you have to be a little bit more intentional about it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that when I have challenges and things with employees, or when I hear about challenges between an employee and a manager and things, often I hear so much about, well, did you talk to him? Well, I emailed. And we're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on email. I'm like, how about we actually have a conversation? It's that little stuff, but it really can just make all the difference in the world. Yep. And yes, virtual makes it a little more challenging. We have to work a little harder at it, but that doesn't mean we can ignore it.
Exactly. We do have a chat comment from Julie. She is watching in the
They're in my conference room, so join us, people. Join everybody.
Yeah. So if your team has a great question, Julie, make sure to ask them to comment, or you can. So, okay, Kathleen, are you ready for the world famous envelope icebreaker challenge?
I study. So
you have a question. It comes down to what number are you picking? 1 through 15.
Oh my.
I've got the envelopes 1 through 15.
I'm going to channel a little Taylor Swift and go with 13. Okay. I can't resist. I'm sorry. I personally don't have a favorite number, but she seemed to be on every social media feed I was looking at this weekend. So
that is okay. This is a good one. And you just told me about your weekend traveling, and so you had a chance to go experience some states you haven't been in. So that's great. This question is, let me pull it up here so everyone can see it. What brings you the most happiness in your life right now?
Wow. What brings me the most happiness is spending time with family, but also just making sure I'm also taking care of me, and I'm a mom. So, as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as an employee, I'm in leadership with my organization, we all have a lot on our plates. And, it certainly presents its share of challenges. And so it is a little bit of, as a matter of fact, I was just thinking earlier, I'm like, okay, normally I would work out on Monday. I just been off for the last 4 days. Yep. So I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I've still got catch up to do, but it's making that commitment to, to work out, to take care of myself, to, feel like I'm prioritizing that, which sounds really simple, but I know so many people that it just goes off the radar. So I'm kind of at a point in my life when I, by spending time with family, by spending time with my daughter, I have a cat that everybody hears about in my office. So, it's the little things. It's all the little things that that really can just bring me joy.
Yeah. Well, I have a lightning round. If you didn't think that we were going to have a lightning round, we do.
Okay.
It is a couple of fun questions. What was your first job with taxes deducted? And your first HR job?
My first job with taxes deducted was, and I won't name the place, but it was at a banquet hall in Warren, Ohio.
Okay.
And we did get paid in cash at the end of the night, but it did have taxes deducted. Yeah. So I actually was terminated from that position because in clearing the tables from a wedding, I might have splashed a glass of red wine into my my dishes bin of dishes, and it splashed on somebody. So that became apparent that was not my path in life. That was high school. So I like to think I've learned from them.
Hey, at least you were working in high school. You were trying to make some money, and that's good.
Senior year.
Yeah, that's good. And first HR job that you would consider HR
was working for a company I'm from Warren, Ohio, so Northeast Ohio. Okay. And a friend of the family, actually. I'm one of those people that kind of stumbled into HR. It was not my, I know, in college, I know what I want to do. We had a friend of the family that he was HR for a lot of supermarkets. He had a consulting firm, but he was HR for supermarkets. Yeah. And he needed some help. And so I just kind of started working with him a few hours a week. I was very blessed that my daughter was a toddler in preschool. So I was kind of working around her schedule, and I was very blessed that he was able to work with me on that. But it was one of those situations that everything was thrown at me, and it was like, ask questions, figure it out, and so, yeah, it was a lot of that. And I will be forever, his name was Chuck Leitner, and I will be forever grateful for him because he got me into a field and a career that I truly love.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how you stumble? Well, some people don't stumble into it. Some people don't at all. Like they go to school, and I see it on their resume, or I see it on their LinkedIn profile, and they went to school for human resources management, or so it's like the people that didn't, like you and me, we went through different avenues to get to where we are. And it's funny. I mean, every career has like people that stumble into it, and it's just a matter of obviously staying engaged and motivating other people to really find their path through it. And HR is a wide list of responsibilities. And one of them that we're going to get into today is super important because it falls back on, how is your retention? How are you hiring? How are you retaining people? And it's not going to get any easier because of the individuals that are coming into the workforce, because it's a whole different dynamic now. And people that have been in the workforce for 3 or 4, generations, or 3 or 4, 30 or 40 years, that are at the end of their career, they might have to work with potentially people that are much younger than them. So let's get into that. So like the engagement. So explain in your words, if someone wasn't a professional in employee engagement and they talk about it all the time with clients like you do in your job, what is employee engagement in your words?
I define employee engagement as, to an extent, the level an employee cares, the level of commitment, and the level of effort they're willing to put into what they're doing. It can boil down that easily. And it's that, how much does somebody care, and are they willing to put a little discretionary effort into it, a little extra effort into it when needed?
Yeah. So how does a company, if it's not something that they're...
Hello, I'm Ruth Thomas, host of Comp and Coffee, where we break down what's next in the world of compensation management. From pay transparency to performance alignment, we explore how businesses are rethinking compensation to drive impact, equity, and growth. So if you're shaping the future of pay at your organization, grab a cup and tune in. Listen on the Work Defined Podcast Network.
Into an engagement plan, or if they don't have an action plan for employee engagement, and they feel like it is a problem right now and they're trying to fix it. They're trying to improve it.
Yep.
How can someone start measuring employee engagement on the basic level? And what advice would you give somebody in that situation?
So I think an easy way to measure it can be turnover.
Okay.
And just why are people leaving? We do recommend doing exit interviews, but I'll take it one step further. Why are we waiting until people are out the door to ask them?
Yeah.
We're a big advocate of just do stay interviews. I've done them many times. It can be 15, 20 minutes.
Yep.
It can be, I personally like the in-person ones, but I've also done it where it's a survey.
Yeah.
Send a survey out through one of the survey platforms. There can be some merit to that element of anonymity.
Yeah.
But what do you like about it? I've got one going on right now with a client. What do you like about our company? What are some things that we can do to improve? It can be, short and sweet. You don't want to make it too long because it gets too tedious for people.
Right.
But just that's a really good way to start, is just to do, a brief survey, do stay interviews and talk to people, ask them. The exit interviews are good. They have value, but again, that person's out the door.
Yeah.
I'd rather find out about that when people are still with us and we can do something about it.
Yeah. So stay interviews, I think, depending on the organization and if they have the bandwidth for someone to do them. Obviously, if you're a smaller business and you don't have internal HR, that's when you look to somebody like yourself.
That's absolutely something that we are often brought in to do. And there can be merit to, I'm from somebody outside the company. So sometimes there is merit to bringing somebody in outside for those circumstances because they'll talk to me. They may not talk to, Jane or somebody that they have to see every day, but they may be more likely to talk to me or one of my colleagues who is from outside the organization.
Yeah. Yeah. So that brings up a good point, because obviously if someone has an internal HR manager or whoever that handles HR, they can go around and do these stay interviews and they can hear about it. And so it's getting that feedback, but then it's, now what do you do with that feedback, right? Like you get all that feedback and then you have a leadership team and they all need to know like where everybody's at with their engagement level. And then it's acting on that feedback. So if a leadership team, does a SWOT analysis, or they go through the things that they're going to focus on for 2025, and retention or engagement is, a part of that, obviously starting to do stay interviews might be a good step, but they might find a lot of stuff on there in those stay interview, feedback data that they might be like, wow, we got to kind of shift the way we're going to focus for next year and beyond. And so it's super important. So doing those stay interviews for people that are watching, it could be like Kathleen said, just a quick survey. I've heard of people trying to do like a pulse survey or culture survey. It could be kind of the same thing, like asking those questions. What do you, I saw somebody on LinkedIn, they were talking about, you can measure your culture by how people feel on Monday mornings when they get up to go to work.
There you go.
Or Sunday night.
Yep.
Like if they are dreading going to work every day on a Monday morning and they're just like, oh, I wish the weekend was longer. I'm not looking forward to going to work. You go into the break room on a Monday when people are grabbing coffee, you'll probably hear how the culture is going too.
Yeah.
So
very much so. And when we're talking about those surveys and things, I oftentimes get companies I'm working with or clients and the leadership. Well, I don't know if we're not going to do that. Well, we're not going to do that. Well, so there's a couple rules of thumb. If you're not going to address it and you're not willing to make any kind of change, don't ask it. Right. And if you do ask it and it's not their feedback or something is not feasible, share the why.
Yeah.
What's the business reason why? We still have, I mean, even ongoing, we have companies that we work with that, on a survey like that, they'll ask, would you be in, how do you feel about remote work? Well, the leadership of the organization is a hard no on remote work. Why are we even bringing this up?
Right.
And
Right.
I mean, it in that circumstance, it boils down to, what are the reasons why? Well, the
Right.
nature of the work that we do, that we've just seen collaboration, that oftentimes with remote work, it's the collaboration and the communication that suffers. And if the organization can kind of spell some of that out, what are the business reasons, rather than just the leadership's not going to buy that? You gotta respond carefully to those, but you have, if you ask it, you have to respond. Not saying you have to do everything the employees say they want to do, but at least respond with, here's why we don't feel this is in the best interest of our organization.
Right. Yeah, it goes hand in hand. Like when we talk about engagement, I look at it as motivation. And when small businesses or larger businesses are doing a consistent check-in with their employees, right? If a manager sits down with their team, do one-on-one meetings every month, and they ask, hey, how's it going? What did you learn over the last month? What can I do to help you? How's everything going? Like asking those questions, and they always need to find what's motivating their employees. If it's somebody in their 20s and they're motivated by something, the people that are 40, 50 years old are not going to be motivated by the same things. So engagement, I feel like, goes aligned with motivation and the culture, and really just having that overall employee experience that people will enjoy, and you'll get good productivity out of them.
Absolutely.
And it's just trying to find that right solution to what's the biggest challenge in your jobs.
And there's no one size fits all. There's
Right.
no one size. I don't have a list of 10 things here, go do these and you'll have an engaged workforce.
Right.
It can be very dependent on the organization. It can be also very dependent on the individual. We do a lot of management training and things. We've got a management training session here in our office tomorrow morning. There's no one size fits all. And you've got to figure out, what motivates your employees, what motivates that individual, and what's important to them. And, we talk so much. We talk a lot about building strong teams, and those one-on-ones are so important. And I'm always amazed at how many managers, because we'll ask them, how many of you are doing one-on-ones and how many aren't? Yeah. And I'm too busy. I don't have time. It doesn't have to be, it can be a 15, 20-minute meeting.
Yep.
I get, depending on what environment you're working in as the manager, there are some, a production floor, or there's other types of environments, they may have 20 or 30 people, but it's still important to connect with your employees. You can't just use that as your reason not to.
Right.
And yeah, you hit on some great points there. What's working? What do we maybe need to, what's not working for you? What can I help you with?
Yeah.
What do you want to learn? Or I like to ask, what have you learned the past week? What do you want to learn now? And then the all important question is definitely, are you getting what you need from me? Is there anything I could be doing that's going to make your life easier?
Yeah.
And just little things like that, those basics.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the little things that sometimes go a long way, right? Like the thank yous for doing your job, and recognition of the team that they feel like they're doing so much and they're just not getting recognized. And so again, a lot of these things are big HR initiatives that, again, if you're not with a situation with internal HR, call Kathleen, because you all are experts in this kind of stuff, and you really can find the right potential solution to companies' issues that they cannot handle internally, which, again, it's knowing the best way to do that, which, if people are watching, I do have a QR code up for Clark Schaefer Strategic HR, because you all do great work. And I think businesses that are not having internal HR, that don't see that happening and might need some help with those projects, definitely contact Kathleen and her team, because I think you can really focus on what they need as a business and give them the right tools. So
Yeah, one of the biggest things when we talk about just, you mentioned recognizing people and rewarding people and things like that. I will say, don't be afraid to think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, and it goes back to what's important to that employee.
Yep.
I had a client I was working with a couple of years ago, and they had tried everything with their rewards and recognition, and they just weren't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And so we kind of did a brainstorming session in our training session, and we talked a lot. Okay, because it was a production department, but there were different units of that production department. Well, even breaking down, okay, what might be right for this side over here is not right for this group over here.
Right.
But also thinking outside the box. We were like, what's important to them? What's the most important thing they want? Well, it turned out to be, for one group, it turned out to be time. They want time. Okay. Well, we can't do that. Why not? If we're willing to give them a $50 gift card,
right.
Am I willing to give them a couple hours cut out early on a day?
Yeah.
I mean, think of it. It was just, they were kind of like, well, we haven't done that. Okay. But again, thinking outside the box. And I had feedback from them later that one of their employees they did this with, and they gave the guy 2 hours of extra, to be able to leave early, 2 hours.
Yeah.
He was about in tears because it meant that he could get to the first pitch of his son's baseball game instead of getting there in the fourth inning because he's stuck in traffic. Yep. It's those little things that can make such a difference. Yeah. And just being willing to think outside the box a little bit, even though we haven't done it that way before. Yeah.
We started a new program a few months ago, back in the spring. Every week, I allow a team member, every employee on our team, we have 40 employees, they can all nominate somebody within the company to be Employee of the Month. Mm-hmm. So they can do it every week. I usually do like Friday, I do a quick reminder. It's just a Google form. They go in, they put in their name, they put in the employee's name. We have our 5 core values. Which one did they use, and give me the situation. And it could be they, helped out a customer that was at the front desk, and, they needed help getting their packet of checks, or, somebody that goes above and beyond their job.
Right.
So I love to see that. And I look at that, and whoever at the end of the month, is nominated by the most people, the most, most amount of people, and the amount of people that don't vote every single week for the same person, right? You can only vote for one person 1 week. And it's great to see this. And I share that all with everybody on a manager employee level. I share who wins. And then we have a parking space for the winner every month. And we have a little rocket award that you get to put on your desk.
There you go.
And, it didn't cost us a lot of money to start that program. I have a few other ideas to make it a little bit bigger and better. And so we're going to kind of implement, maybe some new things, but just people that find out that they were recognized by somebody on their team. And I share that with them and their manager, and people respond to me and they're like, you just made my day. I didn't say that about the person. I'm just sharing what someone said. And obviously I like to call out people when they're doing more than what they're asked to do. We had a client call in and they needed to report that day. And it was like, we got it to them in the same day. And the client was so excited that we actually responded to them and we sent them the report they needed for an audit. And they were like, I'm so thankful that you got that to me that quick. And it's just those little things that, I hear and see a lot of that, but it's like, how can you make that to help your, engagement of your team? And it can motivate them to do better in their job, and they can really excel. And it's just the simple thank you for doing your job, and having people with the ability to recognize the other team member. So anyway, that's
very much so. Yeah. We have, we actually implemented a few years ago for our team, just for birthdays and anniversaries or just something special. And it sounds, and my team in the conference room may be laughing at this. It sounds just silly. So you go to the dentist's office and, you get as a kid, you get your teeth cleaned and stuff, and you get to pick a sticker, or you get to pick something out of the treasure chest.
Yep.
Well, we have the treasure chest in our office, except it's more of an adult-oriented treasure chest.
Okay.
People get so excited about this. We are 36 professional people. We get so excited about this treasure chest because they're generally probably $5 to $7 items.
Okay.
It might be a $5 Starbucks gift card. It might be, my last one I picked was like Ghirardelli chocolate and sea salt, dark chocolate or something, one of the big candy bars or something. And just little things. One of our colleagues here has a thing for socks, so we'll have some fun socks in there. But it's just those little things, and you talk about what brings joy. People get so excited about the treasure chest. There might be some little bottles of some of the airport or airplane cocktails or things like that. There might be a few of those in there, but just all kinds of little stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just,
love it.
It's just fun. It just brings a little bit of fun to the day.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many different ways you can do that, right? Like that idea is great. So anybody listening, there's a couple of good examples.
Man, I'm telling you, it's not a budget buster at all. So we go to the dollar store or something, or, yep.
So it's called the treasure chest. Is there like a name for it, or is it just called the treasure?
It's called the treasure chest, and it is it's like crushed velvet, and it's got fringe around it, and it is, somebody did this up right. I don't know who actually created it, where it came from, but yeah, it sits in one of the conference rooms, and so you get to go to the treasure chest.
Yeah.
or occasionally, the treasure chest needs restocked, so when an email will go out, and there's a run of people to the conference room to check out the treasure chest.
I love it. So let's talk about virtual teams, people that are working virtually. I see people every day, we go into an office, sounds like you do too.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that do that or are starting to go back to the pre-COVID kind of environments. The people that aren't, that are in a virtual world still, and they have no end in sight with that, what would you give those people when it comes to how to improve the engagement of the team? Is it any different than what we've talked about?
I think a lot of it applies, but you also have to be intentional about it. One of the biggest things when you're in an in-person work environment, which we actually are we're a little bit hybrid. A lot of our folks may be out at a client and on site at a client, or some folks are working remote. Some of us prefer to be in the office. So, but I think it's, you just have to be more intentional about it. When you have that is your work environment where everybody's not in one place. What you tend to lose is, we like to call them those shout over the cubicle moments, hey, David, have you had this happen? Or, hey, David, how did that end up last week? Those little kind of things that you tend to miss because the person's not right, within, 5 feet of you, or within, across the office or something that you can get up and walk over there. Yeah. So you have to be a little bit more intentional. And, some of the things I've been on meetings with companies that, okay, great, we're going to have a virtual meeting on Teams, Zoom, whatever your platform is, but nobody's camera's on. And it's like you're sitting in a room talking to yourself, and it's like, it's those little things. We will, when we do have, we have the HR team has a virtual HR huddle on Fridays. And that's we try to make it a little bit fun. What do you have going on this weekend? We talk about issues that have come up during the week, any questions anybody have, if there's information that needs to be shared, we go through all that. But then we also end it with one of the girls on our team, my colleagues that she owns this, there is the fun fact of the day, and then there's the dad joke. And we all look forward to this, but just finding those little ways to make it fun. Those are easy. Sometimes if you're working on a project or something, and I've made this recommendation to clients too, is, open up the Teams channel. Just have a Teams channel for everybody working on it. So that way, if you're logged onto it, you can kind of create those impromptu shout over the cubicle moments that you completely lose if you're 100% virtual. So, I had a client that they implemented and this was early on COVID, but this is how a lot of this developed, right? We were all sort of forced to go virtual when many of us weren't at that point in time. And they would block some hours on a particular day, and they would just open up a Teams channel for that, or Zoom they were on or whatever, for that team, that it was like you were working together. And so it helped to kind of recreate that a little bit. And for those one-on-ones, for those, those kind of things, make sure as the manager, make sure you're being intentional about those. Do you need to do them a little bit more frequently because you don't have those off the cuff moments where you just see them you see them in the break room or something like that? Do we need to do those a little more frequently? Do we need to, believe me, I am not a fan of adding a meeting for the sake of a meeting, but sometimes there's value there in even just a quick check-in. It can be 15 minutes. Hey, haven't talked to you in a couple days. Just wanted to check in and see how things are going. Even I would probably step up, maybe, we've done where we created Teams channels that, we can just check in with each other through the Teams. Like my training team has a Teams channel. We can check in with each other through those. So you're trying to facilitate that communication and that collaboration. That's often what you lose when people are virtual and people aren't together as a team.
Yeah. One-on-one meetings, making that a priority. I think anybody that is listening, if that's not in your current schedule, even if it's bi-weekly to start, just trying to implement that over time, because again, the whole cycle of managing people, if you have a performance review, right? If that's a yearly thing, it's one of managers' favorite times of the year is doing performance reviews. But if you do the day-to-day, week-to-week management task list that requires you to meet with your team, those yearly reviews or whenever you do reviews shouldn't be as daunting, because if you do a meeting every month, like Thursdays, we have a lot of one-on-one meetings on Thursdays and Fridays, right, in our team. So, we have a couple of conference rooms and the managers will do their one-on-one meetings in there. And every month you have those meetings, and over the course of a year, you've got all those notes, and you've got all those things that you learn about each other, and you learn about what the employee is struggling with and where they're needing help. And if you're aligning their training approach to what they're needing, and trying to find the right mentor for them and right tools and resources, so it really can start that whole process to make it a lot easier for somebody.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Managers listening to this and people that aren't in manager roles like that, to me, is so important. I mean, finding the time to do that. Everyone's like, oh, we're too busy. But it really is going to, in the end, impact engagement and retention. And it's going to help everybody in the long run. If everyone wants to get a pay raise every time you meet, I was in a position before, and it felt like every time the manager met with the employee, they thought that they were like getting in trouble or getting a pay raise or something. It wasn't even like clear on why they were meeting. But if you have a clear agenda and you have a clear 20-30 minute conversation with those people on a monthly basis, it can be bi-weekly, it can be monthly, whatever. It's so important to do that. And I think just people that do have a big team to manage, I know that would be probably hard, but try something different than what you're doing now.
Yeah, just even a 15-minute check-in with somebody. Yeah. Or, I get it. I've worked with managers that I had a manager that was like, I oversee 45 people. How am I, there's not even enough hours in a week to do that, and that's all he would do. And I get it. I really, truly do get it. But so maybe for him, where we landed was his team, and maybe his team was actually broken out into like 3 different groups. Yeah. So each group would have a morning huddle, say 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And then he would meet with individuals at least quarterly. But also, it was well known that, and he had established it, and he had done well with it, that people would actually come in and talk to him. In those kind of circumstances, and again, with an in-person workforce, I'm a big advocate of be visible, be a presence, not a presence of, HR's here, or the manager's here, but
Yeah.
just, hey, how was your weekend? I did some traveling over the weekend. And so, I had people come in this morning. Hey, how was your trip? Just little things like that. That's the basic stuff that shows you care. Maybe you can even, if you're virtual, even just chat them. Hey, I was thinking about you. How was your trip this weekend? Just little stuff like that. Or maybe somebody's kid had a soccer tournament. Maybe somebody had, somebody's kids are in finals. Maybe somebody's kids are doing the college application thing. But it blows me away how many leaders and how many managers and supervisors and things aren't taking a second to make those connections. Yep. And I mean, like all this that we're talking about, the check-ins, the asking questions of them, how's it going? All of those things. You can't be an effective manager if you're not doing these things. I'm going to venture most people watching this, if you're a manager, you're not just a manager. You're a working manager. You have your own workload. You have other stuff you're doing. But you can't be an effective manager if you're not prioritizing, engaging with your, just making connections with your employees, checking in with them, providing that feedback. Follow up with them. So maybe you talk to them about something they were having a challenge with. Then, maybe a couple weeks later, you follow up with them. Hey, how's it going? Did that help you? Has it made it a little easier for you? Or, hey, I had some feedback from somebody, your client or somebody else you work with. So it sounds like a lot of what we're talking about, you've been able to do, giving them that, keeping those contact and that communication and giving them that kind of feedback. You can't be an effective manager if you're not doing that. And one of the things that I find, and I'll get off my soapbox here.
You're fine.
But one of the things that I find, though, is a lot of organizations don't hold their managers accountable for managing people. They're evaluated on quota. They might be evaluated on revenue. Which, don't get me wrong, all that's important. I get it. Yep. I'm not saying it's not important, but you also have to hold your managers accountable for actually being engaged, managing their people. That's a big missing piece that I see sometimes.
And I think the way you can get data on that, if you're an organization and you've got, let's say, 20 managers, well, somebody in that organization can send each manager's team a quick survey about, rate your manager, give us feedback. Like, what do they do well? What don't they like? Getting that consistent feedback from the manager, from the employees, and just having that kind of 360 review, from their perspective. If you get 20 people, I've heard it called, it's been called an environmental assessment. It's been called a manager assessment. If you're getting 20 people that's managed by Joe Smith or whoever, and everybody's saying the same exact thing about them, whether it's good or bad, then you need to act on it.
Yeah.
And, to be a successful manager, I feel like everything that you said, I completely agree with. It's also being consistent in the feedback you provide and the recognition and celebrating the little victories of they do their job. You should recognize them for that at points where you feel like, hey, thanks for all your help this week. Thanks for stepping up and helping out where Sally was out sick, or, like little things that they just may not find in other positions before that. Because if somebody's coming in with 20 years experience and they've quit a job or they've left a job because of how they were managed, and you're a better manager to them, they're going to be like, oh, you're my favorite manager I've ever had. I've left jobs because how I was managed. Other people have done the same thing.
Absolutely.
They don't leave a company. If they're paid well, maybe they leave because of pay, right? Maybe they leave because of environments or commuting, and they don't want to travel as much. They want more family time, work-life balance, all that. But a lot of people leave because of managers.
Yep.
Right.
Employees don't leave companies. Employees leave managers. And, if I have advice for clients and stuff that we're working with, train your managers. Because a lot of organizations underestimate the impact those managers have on their employees. Yes, there can be some cost to training them, but when you start to think about, anything along the lines of engagement, if you have a more engaged workforce, they're going to be more productive. They're going to be more diligent. You're going to have lower quality issues.
Right.
You're going to have, higher customer satisfaction of your customers. When you can get your workforce where people feel like they care about them. It's not rocket science. The thing that I hear most often is people want to know somebody's paying attention.
Yep.
People want to know somebody cares about them. People want to know they're contributing to something. It's really, that's it, and it's not, but you'd be surprised how often that doesn't happen. And people don't take the time to let their employees know, hey, I'm paying attention, or, oh, hey, your daughter was sick last week. How's she doing? Is she kind of feeling better this week? It's those little things. And no, you don't have to be best friends with your employees. Nobody's saying that. I get that a lot. It's just showing people you care.
Yeah.
It's that little bit, because, and showing a little understanding. We live in a really hard world today. It's a hard world. There's so much going on in the world itself. And I guarantee you, every single person, I always like to say, they have their own stuff.
Yep.
We all have our own stuff, whether it's family, whether it's with our spouse, or, maybe it's our kids. I have elderly parents, we all have our stuff. And just offering a little bit of compassion and understanding. And if somebody needs to duck out a little early because there's an issue or something, okay, would prefer, ideally not, but it shouldn't be jeopardizing their job. How can we, and don't get me wrong, when we have attendance issues and somebody's abusing that, I'm not saying don't address that, but a little bit of understanding and a little bit of compassion with people of, if Susie's struggling and Susie's got a lot going on at home, Susie, what can we do to help you? What can we do? Is there something we can do to support you?
Right.
And just little things like that.
Yeah.
That's where you can really, those basics that you can really boost that engagement.
What's the current rate of people disengaged in their job? Isn't it like 76%?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Gallup has done this survey for ages, and we've all the efforts we as HR professionals and as organizations have put into employee engagement, and it really has been stuck for a long time. It was stuck at like 67%. Yeah. It had a little bit of a spike during COVID. It spiked up to 70%. Maybe people were just like so excited to have a purpose because COVID was so hard, but then it dropped right back down. And I saw something here just a month or two ago. Gallup, I think it was Gallup, surveyed in April, and it was 67%. It was, 30, or it was something like 30. I believe it was 36% were engaged. So the 67% is off a little bit. It was, but they resurveyed people in like July, and that had dropped to 30%. And when you look at that, the raw numbers of the millions of people in that time frame that have become disengaged. And right. that's hard to hear, especially when there's so much we can do on a day-to-day basis to address it.
Right. And from an organization, level, if you really don't know where your team's at with engagement, just ask them.
Ask them.
In simple questions, whether it's in a survey, whether it's in a conversation, on a scale from 1 to 10, how engaged are you in your job? And if you get, let's say you send it out to the whole company and you get, what's the average response rate to surveys? Isn't it like, if
you get 50%, I know what you're talking about. And I'm sorry, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but if you can get 50% responding, that's, pretty good.
Yeah. So if you get half of the team to respond to your engagement survey, and then you look at that, and it can be anonymous. It doesn't have to be like, oh, what department do you work in? What's your name? Like, you can just make it anonymous. Right. And whether that's once a year, once every 6 months, that's the baseline. of your engagement level. And beyond that, figure out what's in there. And if it's like, oh, we don't feel like we work, as a team as much as we should, we don't, we would like to do more team building exercises or more fun events. Well, make a party planning committee. You know what I mean? Like make a fun committee that several people within the company, like on the office, make it where you can try to have a few more fun events for people to do, happy hours, something that can really try to find time outside of the workplace, right? To like get to know each other. And everyone's got to eat lunch. So take your team to lunch every now and then, or buy them lunch. I mean, we went through National Payroll Week was last week. So we had a lot of fun things going on during the week. We, got a couple of lunches put into the office and bought them lunch and breakfast and had some fun contests. And
food seems to resonate with people, I've found.
Food, yes. Food, prizes, treasure chests, it's that fun stuff. So whether you have a team of 5 or 500 or whatever, I mean, there's things that you can always do to try to help people get more excited in their job and more into their job and their day-to-day work life situation. So any other advice that you would give, Kathleen, before we wrap up?
I guess I'll say just don't get complacent.
Yeah.
And we need to be intentional. Whether it's got to be on the radar constantly. Whether you're in person, whether you're virtual, no matter how big your team is, we can't lose sight of it, because we can't get complacent. It's, regardless of where somebody might be tuning in from in the country. Yeah, we're hearing all kinds of stuff about the economy. Unemployment is still at 4.3%. That's still historically low. And so it's hard to find good people. And we're a big advocate. I've said this 1,000 times. We need to be re-recruiting our people every single day. Because if you're not, somebody else is. And particularly your really good employees, somebody else is. And so you need to give them a reason to stay and give them a reason to want to be part of your team.
Yeah. I think that's great. So again, hopefully people watching this live, or if you're watching it on demand, we gave you some feedback and tips and some advice for your situation in your company. But if you want to learn more about what Kathleen and her team can do, click on the QR code for Clark Schaefer Strategic HR. Amazing organization I've known for quite some time now, since I started in HR back in the day, when iPhones weren't a thing and Facebook wasn't a thing. So you've done some really good work, and glad that we were able to connect, and wish you all the best in your team this fall. And if you're going to SHRM,
we appreciate you having us.
Yeah, you said you're going to SHRM, Ohio?
I am. I will be. There are 4 of us from my team that are going up there. So as a matter of fact, after this, I've got a planning meeting that we're getting everybody together. So we'll see you there.
There you go. Well,
and anybody else who's there, Clark Schaefer Strategic HR, we'll have a booth in the vendor hall. Stop and see us.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, thanks for coming on, Kathleen. Great. It's been great to talk to you.
Thanks, David. I appreciate you having us.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right.